Welcome back, everyone, to the LCS Proving Grounds. Game number 1 already done. That slobber knocker is out the way. We are now ready for FlyQuest Academy, looking to take on ZOOS Gaming.
This is going to be another little great series here. FlyQuest Academy, they came in number 1 after the regular split in Academy. Then in playoffs, they had that 5-game, just incredible series against the side of C9 that they unfortunately fell to in the semifinals, putting them in 3rd, 4th place. And then, of course, ZOOS on the other side, one of the more highly touted amateur teams. A lot of respect from Academy teams. You think of players like Alarin, Griffin, Tuesday, players that you've seen at the Academy level before do very, very well. Bound to be an exciting little matchup we've got between these two rosters here.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one because both of these teams have a lot to prove when it comes to this. Of course, having that 4th place finish, FlyQuest, they want to achieve more. They want to be able to accomplish more and not fall at the hands of some lowly little toilet paper cat. But there are our amateur darlings, the Toilet Paper Cat ZOOS Gaming. This was a group that in spring, everyone thought this was one of NAAM's big squads. Them and No Org had all the hype around them. Unfortunately, an 0-2 did put a quick end to that when it came to Proving Grounds, but now they're looking better. They've already had the rematch against GGA, went 2-3 in that one, which is a much better result, being so close to taking that one. They have a massive challenge ahead of them when it comes to FlyQuest Academy and one of these top 4 Academy teams.
They don't call this the Proving Grounds for no reason, Mr. Eric. You get a chance to prove yourself against some of the best competition as amateur teams and Academy teams get a chance to show why it is that Academy teams are around and just can beat down their opponents. This is one of the hardest matchups I think Academy team would have to begin things. You've got on one side, like I said, even Rhino has experience inside of Academy. Only Raheen is basically one without any Academy experience thus far against a roster that had players that were even up on the professional roster for a short time between NXI, Triple, Dreams, Johnson, all of them trying to make some noise on the side of that roster. So big things between these two. FlyQuest trying to put this team in the dirt because this is one of our best amateur teams. Their seeding is not indicative of how their performance went over the course of the entire split. So this is FlyQuest, I think, wanting to prove a point to some of these amateur teams that they are not to be trifled with.
So I'm just getting word that draft is ready, so we'll see if they're able to prove that point. Now, getting back onto FlyQuest real quick, this was a roster that we saw during the regular season when it came to the summer split. A lot of changes. We saw that whole swap up that happened with their LCS roster and their Academy roster as well. Some of the members of that Academy roster are staying over in LCS. Diamond is one of them that I'm so happy about to see. But yeah, there has been a lot of adjustments with this squad.
You also had Kumo, which is one of the big ones. Because Kumo, I mean, he was insane in Academy. He went to, like, professional team. He still had great performances there. And then, of course, Licorice took his departure, and so Philip joined this roster. Halfway into the split is the only kind of, like, amateur player to step in here as a replacement for FlyQuest. Thinking that was going to be a weak point, so many teams went to attack Philip. To no avail. Philip has been a rock and an amazing contributor to this FlyQuest Academy. Yes, they got knocked out a little early in playoffs, but if this had been the number 1 team, we would have had to praise Philip for days because of his performance. He is the one player that I want to keep an eye on, or at least one of the players I want to keep an eye on inside of this series, because again, he was the untested member. He's been fantastic for FlyQuest all throughout the Academy split.
And it kind of makes me excited looking at opposite sides of the rift on this one, because you have players like NXI who are on FlyQuest now. Players who had a great run through the amateur scene in 2020, now showing up in the Academy scene. So you are seeing some of the development of these players, some of the progression of these players as they make their way up and start challenging some of the next generation of amateur player. First champion going to get locked in as we do get to the draft. ZOOS Gaming going straight for the Varus.
Interestingly, like, that was just untouched in our previous series. Rise got banned out a number of times. This is a triple special champion, and it's been blinded a number of times in a couple of different regions. This champion is very strong and hard to deal with right now in terms of what you can actually pick into it. I know Orion is relatively, kind of up there in terms of the response, just because of how well it scales and how well it can kind of handle the laning phase. And we know Tuesday is no stranger to that champion or others. We saw Singed mid. Don't tempt fate here. We have more than enough matchups to kind of quell everything throughout everybody here. My favorite, of course, we talked about this a little bit. Griffin versus NXI is going to be an exciting matchup. NXI was a prospect just last season, stepped onto FlyQuest Academy, has now become one of the better players, one of the better junglers inside of the Academy. And Griffin at one point touted it as exactly that same thing, gets a chance to kind of beat down the young blood here on FlyQuest.
It's definitely going to be exciting, as the next ADC to get locked in is going to be a Felios on the side of FlyQuest. Now, taking a longer look at that Varus, it is a champion that Raheen loves. It's a champion that he gets a really high KDA with. It is his carry champion. If he doesn't play the Varus, he'll usually default onto something that's a little bit more team-oriented, like the Ashe. But Varus is definitely the top of his wheelhouse as Viego and Braum get locked in.
Very interesting. Griffin is oftentimes early game engine. It's my favorite kind of comparison here, where if ZOOS is doing well early game, a lot of the time it's because Griffin is getting out and about on the map and he's making impact everywhere all the time. And so that's something to pay attention to. Varus should give you enough pushing power against an Aphelios to be able to compete. I was a little curious here for a second, because it would have been easy enough to take Thresh on the side of ZOOS Gaming. Rhino opts against that, instead choosing the Braum into what looked like a very easy setup for FlyQuest to take that. Dreams is a very proficient Thresh player. Fitting it with the Aphelios is the perfect bot lane combination. And now you also get that for Ryze, so Ryze can play a lot more on the front foot. It's interesting to me that like Rhino has opted for the Braum into the Thresh matchup just for the defense and everything that can come about. That concussive blow stacks can be helpful for a Halo Blades Varus to get aggressive down there. Maybe that's the setup. Maybe they really do want to play into the kind of CC combination of those two, rather than going for the Thresh and playing for a bit more defense.
Yeah, you do have a lot of crowd control just with that part of the draft alone. Viego had excluded. Chain of Corruption provides so much zone control because people don't want to be around that champion that gets rooted. Concussive Blows, you talked about that. Glacial Fissure, so many tools for ZOOS Gaming very early on as we head towards the second phase of the draft. FlyQuest Academy, they're going to start choking down on that mid lane pool. Syndra, Orianna taken off the map. So far, Xin Zhao banned out of ZOOS Gaming.
Nothing shocking about that one to come through here. The Orion and the Syndra are both Tuesday champions, both good into the Ryze, as it's a combination of range, the ability to kind of match his wave clear once itemization comes through, and the team fighting prowess that those champions bring is oftentimes just kind of understood. This is pretty cool. You see, the Xin Zhao is kind of early and able to kind of combat what it is the Viego does. Usually he's able to kind of interact with lanes more, and Olaf is just one of the best duelists to have to deal with. So it is Trundle who gets picked up, and this is a good matchup only because, again, that Q sap drain onto an AD champion makes it difficult, especially when you have the attack speed buff. It's one of the better duelists into AD champions, and now Trundle also gets to fit in with two very good team fighters to be the front line to take down any frontliners that ZOOS would draft here. Oftentimes, Lorem will find himself in that pool. Seems like a perfect fit here for FlyQuest Academy.
Yeah, it is a beautiful draft coming out of FlyQuest thus far. Now the response going to be out of ZOOS Gaming. They're going to grab the Azir, so you're getting a little bit more of that zone control, as you do now have it with the Chain of Corruptions as well as the Sand Soldiers. You can bring the Emperor's Divide as well as the scaling, the DPS you can get by bringing someone like Azir. So pretty good composition so far. It fights front to back quite well.
Take me back to 2016 MSI when we had a Azir Ryze in every single game across the board. Always fun times, and a little bit of that recanting itself here. This has been another popular pick when you have a mage that's capable of outranging the Ryze, poking him out in that kind of regard. It's been pretty popular. That's why Syndra, Orianna were banned away, and then you're going to take the Azir here as the next best champion. Also add some DPS, especially if you go lethality Varus. My apologies. The Ornn in the top side for Alarim, again, one of these kind of tanky champions. It's an Alarim champion. That's kind of what he does, is taking some of these engaged team fighty type champions. And FlyQuest, they go for the Aatrox. This has been kind of touched up recently, and I've seen it more often, still not consistently, but Philip likes this matchup. This was very popular a while ago. I know Philip was playing an amateur at the time when these two champions were two of the most popular, so I'm guessing he's well versed in this matchup. They gave him counter pick to get him comfort. He opts for this matchup into the Ornn. We'll see if he can capitalize on it, because that's a fun one to watch on the top side.
Yeah, honestly, this entire composition that I see drafted out of FlyQuest so far is definitely going to be a threat to ZOOS Gaming, because this is strong. In every single lane it's strong, at multiple stages of the game it's strong, and it's not that hard to execute as well. What do you do with the Felios? You right-click. What do you do with Thresh? You're not waiting on ultimates, you're waiting on death sentences. You're waiting on the Trundle to show up into the lane and throw out the Pillar of Filth. These are non-ultimate abilities. These are a lot of things that just work so well.
Pillar of Filth is a great name. Oh, that's fantastic. It really is. It's one of the best abilities in the game. The one thing I will kind of knock for FlyQuest, their engagement from a distance is a little bit lacking, because you've got Death Sentence and you've got the Pillar of Filth, as you so lovingly put it, but both of those are more mid-range than anything. You've got the W, you've got Gravitum Moonlight Vigil, which could be the massive way to do it, and I know Johnson's perfectly capable of being the primary engage for his team, which is weird to say about an ADC most of the time, but Zeus is much more consistent. Chains of Corruption into a couple, not just one or two, but like even Aphelios without Green Gun is lower range, or like capable of being engaged against like Ryze, and then 3 melee champions effectively with their like like range is able to be engaged on by Chains of Corruption, by Azir, and by Ornn from a distance. That is the one thing that I think ZOOS can play with, is that their engage range is capable of taking massive advantage over top of FlyQuest composition. Maybe they can capitalize on that.
So now we are on the Rift. ZOOS Gaming versus FlyQuest Academy, LCS Proving Grounds. It's definitely been fire with the matches we've seen thus far. A lot of hot things to start us off. You know, we saw yesterday, says Ronnie Pentakill. We can't stop talking about it because our Mayo, my goodness, 5 flavors and it goes so good on Boar. Following soon after, Dignitas taking that win. And now, with what we saw today, wild things going on between Cloud9 Amateur and Area of Effect. So, Proving Grounds, man, I loved it in the spring. It is just as hot in the summer.
Yeah, this has been a fun day already, and we've had one series. What was the call time for the previous series? Only 2 hours after we initially started, and that was supposed to be at like 5. So it was like 6 my time, and now it's 8:30 my time. We're only just starting game number 1. You could throw some appreciation for the fact that we're getting put to work, man. And I love that. I love to get put to work when it comes to casting League of Legends. So this is some of the best I've had a chance to do in quite some time.
Especially the storylines that go into this, because you're watching a lot of these players chase their dreams. This is the next step in that ladder.
Talk about someone chasing
now
dreams.
An aggressive play going off in the bot lane. Word being said, yeah, absolutely perfect for the scenario, as Dreams has to flash out to be able to get away.
Wow.
Concussive blow is going to proc.
Wordplay aside, I will say that Zeus's weak point on the map oftentimes has been pointed to the bottom lane. This is not like necessarily Raheen or Rhino's fault. It's just that like oftentimes they tend to take more of a weak side approach. Alarum tends to play also like another form of weak side, in that like bottom side doesn't absorb resources super well unless they're giving them to Griffin. So unless you're attacking bot side with the intention of giving kills over to the jungler, usually they're not finding their way down there. Alarum usually just focuses on trying to team fight, trying to skirmish as often as he can, so he like kind of stumbles and fights as often as possible. And again, the focus usually comes to Griffin. And so it's nice to see like Raheen and Rhino, despite the fact that every summoner was burnt on that bottom side for that aggression, that they were able to put down Johnson and Dreams very quickly to pull some priority on the bottom side, seeing as, again, oftentimes they're not seen as kind of the focal points of the map, still able to generate their own advantage from time to time.
A little bit bummed out that one of the first bans that showed up in this match was the Tahm Kench. Because we have Tahm Kench players on both sides right here. One of the most prominent ones was Dream. He was the first one to pull it out in the Academy season for the support role. So I'd be so excited to see that go through, but not going to have it. Not even going to have Alorum on his Wukong. Don't get anything fun today. I say that, and we had Singed earlier.
We did have we burnt all of our bridges for champion picks in that last series with like Xerath and like Singed to mid. We don't get any more. We just get classic, standard stuff from the two of these two teams who are just trying to play things out against one another. I want to make mention, NXI tried to poke his head into bottom lane after that pressure. Again, all the summoners were down after that aggression, despite the fact that it led to nothing, which is something to pay attention to. Ignite and Cleanse are up for Johnson and Dreams, even though both their flashes are down. So at least NXI poking down there, trying to maybe look for something, prodding to see if there's anything allowed. Whereas like top side was covered here. Griffin was on that bottom side, able to find something. First back also comes through from Griffin before NXI finishes his Krug camp, which is something else to note, as he's heading up to top side. As you know, Philip, he's got a bit of a wave freeze. I think the second one's coming in here. Yeah, that's correct. TP up the top side. Maybe aggression can be generated between Alorum and Griffin into Philip here if he decides to continue this where it's at right now. But notice NXI is able to cover this as well before his back comes through.
So now in the mid lane, a little bit of fight breaking out, a little bit of a skirmish
soldiers
between the two mid laners, Triple and Tuesday. A lot of experience between these mid laners as well.
Oh, yes.
I remember Triple almost ended up on RNG's Academy squad, their version of Academy, so he could have been anywhere. And speaking of Triple, when it came to FlyQuest in that time where they swapped their Academy and LCS rosters, that 3-0 week FlyQuest had, Triple was player of the game for 2 of those, so very competent mid laner you got there.
Yeah, Triple is a great player. Inside of Academy, outside of Academy, he's just a good player. Has experience from being a professional previously, and has been able to show kind of that ability once again. Translates very well to what has been able to come out here inside of North America, being the 3rd seed here inside of Academy. And like you said, during that 3-0 week. Yeah, that too. Yeah, when they were able to come over, he had to be one of the more highly touted players to come about just because of how well he played inside of some of those tournaments. So that's what Triple's been able to accomplish. His rise is something that I know has been very, very good previously as well. So I'm excited to see him on this pick. I'm always a fan of the rise pick pretty much whenever I get to see it.
Yeah, earlier in Academy, like those first few weeks, I remember him having double-digit KDAs.
Oh, yeah.
He was a beast in those first few weeks. Ultimately, it did average back on down, but he's still been a pretty consistent mid laner when it comes down to it. He is going to be able to show up back in mid lane.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he was also on that list of Samsung Fast 5 during the Academy split. I think for Mythic transformation for mid lane, or for Mythic purchasing for mid lane. I could be mistaken about that, but I seem to remember his name popping up a couple of times. So, also on that Samsung Fast 5. Big stuff for Triple, being able to make waves pretty much anywhere he goes.
Now trying to make waves in the bot lane is going to be ZOOS. Attempt a little small gank there just to relieve some of the pressure, but just going to take the reset for the time being because too much control for FlyQuest over in the river now that you have Triple able to shove in the wave with no Tuesday.
Lots of respect being given from both sides of these matchups here. Both these teams, obviously, there's a ton of players to be able to respect on both sides, given that we've seen all these players, or at least a lot of these players, inside of Academy. If they're not currently in Academy, a lot of ZOOS' roster having done that. FlyQuest able to use this Trundle very quickly. We're not seeing the same kind of just like pure support, pure aggression that we saw from XQ's Diego. Griffin playing a little bit further back, understandably, given that the Trundle matchup is difficult, and that like Ryze is going to be able to move most of the time. Azir's able to help him out right here, but it is possible for Ryze to gain control and make wave from time to time. Same with the Aphelios on the bottom side. If that Varus gets pushed back a little bit, takes too much of a full trade.
You can tell he's trying really hard to find the Emperor's Divide here, but Triple too far back. Griffin was waiting over that wall, and now the pincer comes in. Philip joining the fight. Able to use the World Ender, gets a lot of damage in. The Realm Warp going to be used as Triple will get closer, gets caught out, gets killed. Rhino will take him down. The retaliation too good out of ZOOS Gaming. It'll cost them Tuesday, but they get the top and they get the mid.
One of my favorite things about ZOOS Gaming, their ability to respond to help out in situations like this. Yes, this ended up being a kill in First Blood going over to the side of FlyQuest. They bring members in, Philip especially being able to show up here and put down damage onto Tuesday, force him out to flash over the wall, and eventually being able to pick up this kill. But you throw so much into this that you're not realizing the counterplay is going to be there. Dreams comes in a little late, can't get the Lantern down fast enough, the CC's enough to bring him down, and ZOOS ends up coming out on top because multiple kills go into their team.
Now Five bringing out in the choke point on the ramp near the river. NXI throws up the pillar. Going to have some backup from Johnson and Triple. Showing up towards the ramp. Just going to back off, finding the disengage. FlyQuest not going to press the matter.
Oh no. Rhino's all board right now. There's 3 members trying to take red buff. He's going to leave him be.
Oh! Rhino didn't need to burn that flash though, but he gets Streams flash in the process, so you're not going to have that as a pick, as a threat for engage, but still, red buff gets stolen away.
That does. FlyQuest going in on an engage. ZOOS once again supporting with 3 members to ensure that they get nothing except for what they came for, which is exactly that red buff. And the flash for flash trade, I think, actually ends up benefiting the Braum more than anything. Braum has the W to be able to do things, and Thresh can use that with a flash FLYA, a flash Q, anything like that to be able to kind of impact the fight, even a flash Lantern to be able to save someone from further away, taken out of the board here. Whereas, I think that ends up benefiting Rhino in the end, even though the red buff's taken away. As ZOOS, they're playing counterplay. This is one of the things that they're very popular to do. Oftentimes, it's Alorum who you're kind of paying attention to do most of this, but in general, when they're able to kind of counteract the pressure that's being put on by FlyQuest Academy, that's when they're going to feel the most comfortable. If they can stage this to the point where, like, eventually Ornn's going to be on, like, the advanced items, you've got Azir and Varus at that point as well, that's where they're going to be really in the comfort zone, feeling good about this game.
And there's so much defense, it's going to be hard to take them down as well. And that last little exchange that we saw, having both the Ornn and the Braum there, that is so much crowd control, that is so much beef to have to try and cut through to be able to get a kill. And all they're going to do is pat you on the back and give you concussive blows for the effort.
Well, looking to see, Rift Herald seems to be a point of contention for FlyQuest. They've got a number of members kind of waiting for it. Dreams as well going to be here, but Philip's in some trouble.
All the Forge God being used onto Philip, able to get the chain CC.
Very nice.
Smoothly used there.
Absolutely. And that, with that play, kind of thwarts what was coming out from FlyQuest, because it looked like Dreams was heading up to try to support what is a Rift Herald play, especially with Philip having the wave so far up. The punishment from ZOOS, the combination of Alarum and Griffin, all of this experience that those two are able to bring to the position, they find this play, and it denies the Rift Herald from going over cleanly to the side of FlyQuest. If they have that push and they end up catching it and Griffin has to go to farming, Rift Herald just gets taken off the board with 4 members. Instead, ZOOS now gets to find some aggression, maybe look for their own Rift.
And FlyQuest are the ones on retreat now. Not having a good early game whatsoever. It's ZOOS who are going to be able to control it. As they grabbed Rift Herald, having the kill lead, having the goal lead, having a bit of a momentum lead as we get 10 minutes into this game.
Looking very good so far is ZOOS, so very well contained. I want to talk about the fact they're coming in as what is the 14th seed right now. Oh, actually, Raheem's in real trouble.
Ooh, Raheem getting locked down, but Philip can't do too much else as he waits for cooldowns. NXI to show up towards the top side to make sure that he does not get dived in the process.
Too close for comfort right there. ZOOS is bottom lane, is competing against Alarum, but he should be able to clear the wave. But thankfully, with NXI's coverage and the damage dealt to Raheem, they are not able to use that Rift Herald immediately to try to crack like 3-4 plates onto this top tower and just shove off Philip as much as possible. Same thing's going to happen to FlyQuest, where it seems like they're in the same position where they weren't able to crack too much or able to get 1 plate onto the Aphelios. The Rift Herald still hangs in the balance for ZOOS here, though.
So ZOOS, good start so far. Alorum over on the top side being 2-0. You know, the Wukong legend himself, he's kind of been in the scene for ages. We've seen him in Optic, Echo Fox, Immortals, and the amount of Oryx this man has been a part of.
Yeah, I mean, he was a large reason why in the previous split we had the reintroduction, I guess, of RBM, because he played previously, but I don't know if you knew this, I didn't know who RBM was because he left right before I started casting at all. And so I didn't know who RBM was until he joined ZOOS Gaming. Same with Darkwings. I knew a bit about Darkwings because he was around a little bit, but again, this was his first real introduction into very competitive play. Raheem got his first chance there, and then like Rhino stepped onto the team as well. But ZOOS Gaming was kind of the brainchild eventually of Alarum, especially because it's named after his cat. And if it weren't for that, those players might not have been in the previous series that we just saw, let alone this series where we're getting a chance to see more of these players, some of these other players like Tuesday and Griffin step back in.
Speaking of Alarum, he's going to go right over the wall and chase down Philip. The aim, the precision, everything beautiful.
That's a tough flash. That's a tough ultimate. He lands 2 tough abilities in a row, able to get that solo kill, and this Ornn looking dangerous against Philip. And Philip has not had this kind of pressure be able to be converted against him most of the time inside of Academy. A lot of teams have tried to put this on and have not been able to find success with it, but here it is, ZOOS Gaming able to convert a number of times into the aggression against the likes of this Aatrox that is now sitting pretty far down against the Ornn, and even better, they're continuing to spike this ahead. If they can keep Alorum's experience very high, and keep him evolved pretty much across the map, keep him into the area where all the like upgrades are going to come through very quickly. All of a sudden, again, this scaling, this team fighting, it looks really good for the side of ZOOS.
Yeah, he's about to become unkillable. The pressure is now being applied over in the bot lane. Dreams with the death sentence. It's going to lock down Raheen and give a kill right over to Johnson.
What a hook right there from Dreams. I don't know if we have a chance to see exactly how that landed, because I was dumbfounded by the fact that snagged. As Dreams, again, I talked about it, they gave him this champion, even though he's excruciatingly good at what he's able to do, and it converts. Now, top tower was taken with Rift Herald, bottom tower, seems like Johnson and Dreams aren't going to overstay. This was the play on the top side against the likes of Philip, who, as soon as he goes for that, it looks like he knows exactly what's about to happen to him, as he's forced out of this position very quickly.
And actually predicting where the flash was going to be and getting the flash over the wall. Those are 2 really hard things to execute right there.
Absolutely. It was very impressive to see what Alarum was able to do. His experience, how long has he been playing? He's had some LCS experience himself. Thankfully, we also get this replay. Thank you very much, observers, for being able to show us this insane hook, because I want to know exactly how it landed. This was the response play. Top side was getting aggressed against by Rift Herald, so they go bot side, grab this dragon. This wave's getting shoved in freely because they have this trundle. What happens here through the wave?
Wow.
Wow. Bullet curved around Rhino to be able to snag Raheen, and then Johnson just gets to run him down. That had to be like pixels of difference that could have denied that hook. Oh my God.
You see that from time to time on Nautilus, where it is a little bit wide, a little bit more janky. You don't see that often on Thresh, where it's a much more finer skill shot to land.
the hitbox isn't 3 times the one that hits terrain on Nautilus or on
Whoa,
Thresh.
okay,
My
with the
apologies,
Nautilus
it's
one,
bad.
I've seen some ridiculous ones where
I
it
have
feels like
too,
it's curving
yeah.
around it.
Yeah, it really does. But
Diamond
you're
was the
right.
one where I've seen the ridiculous ones come from as well.
100%. Also on FlyQuest, you think
Also
that
on
carries
FlyQuest.
over at least a little bit. These FlyQuest supports and their darn Thresh curved hooks coming out, being able to snag people. Maybe it's a trick of the trade. Built different. That's 100% correct.
FlyQuest supports. Meanwhile, a lot of attention over in the bot lane from both junglers, kind of hovering around this area.
No, okay.
They're just taking recalls over in the bot lane. No fights to happen there. We gotta look at the upgrade going on. If he were
able
actually
to.
go for it.
He grabbed the Kindle Gem. He was able to snag that one away. The cooldown reduction not going to make his life any better. I was going to note Serpent's Fang out here for initially from Varus. I think that's really beneficial because you've got like Shield Bow that can come out from the likes of Johnson, as well as like Severum gives you the shield when you overheal with it. You got the Lantern to deal with, and plenty of other things. So like in terms of that laning phase, I think it's a lot easier to try to deal with the Serpent's Fang first item if you're going lethality. Also for a second there had an Executioner's, but ended up selling it away as it seems like Raheem's not going to bank on that. The healing is the reduction is not going to help you in the laning phase as much. I think is the Serpent's Fang. I don't even know if that's technically going to be like that beneficial to him. I'm always a fan of the Umbral Glaive Rush just because of the King control that you're always going to have with it. The King was the one who always did that on the likes of the Varus, and that's always my favorite, so I always get to mention it. But here, Raheen obviously wanting to put more pressure onto the likes of the Shield Bow Shield and the Thresh into the bottom side, so it goes for that item very quickly, so you can put more pressure onto this bottom lane for the FlyQuest.
Speaking of pressure, a lot applied in the mid lane as Dreams was hovering. They're going to try and catch Tuesday, but Tuesday won't take the bait in this case. It's going to enable ZOOS to have control of this top side, where they will easily be able to grab that Rift Herald, but it's going to come at a pretty big cost here. Bot lane tower going down solo to Johnson.
Yeah, able to give their Aphelios even more gold. Now they're trying to capitalize on mid lane. Triple can't be, or he's not in range for Tuesday to be able to shift him as Alarum tried to move. If they find that kill onto Triple, Rift Herald gets dropped, they almost certainly crack mid tower and makes that play worth it. But unfortunately, because they can't convert right there, Triple's able to stay far enough back. That's just free gold into the pocket of Johnson, who's going to be able to team fight. And now Rhino.
Oh, Rhino, bad place to be, but yeah, it's a tank. Go figure. He's got Bramble Vest, got some health, he's got Merc Dreads.
Rom Shield. Directional damage reduction from the likes of the Bryce. That's
got it all.
Not yeah. Rom, perfect chance. Perfect chance. Okay. I'm watching because Varus was on bottom, so I just shoved that wave back to middle, and now it's going to come back into mid lane because they're trying to grab mid priority. Ornn is doing the same thing. They're TPing into this. They want this Rift Herald usage as much as possible just to try to force this down and maybe go into the Dragon pick because they're on third Dragon right now. They don't want to get that win condition to the side of FlyQuest.
Yeah, that's going to be Infernal Drake. Dragon does crash into the tower, and they're just going to forfeit it to FlyQuest. They're going to go straight for the structures. They want to deconstruct the base. Another charge coming in from Shelly. 2 towers picked up. That is the trade. Drake for 2 towers, and it's got to be a little bit favorable towards ZOOS if FlyQuest never get towards that soul.
That is a lot of gold and a lot of pressure that just got put on. Double mid tower in exchange for that
And they're
Dragon.
getting top.
And they're getting top tower because they're able to shift so much faster. Philip wasn't top lane, he was mid lane, so that wave ends up not getting shoved out either. That's gotta throw it back to Alarum because again, he's the one who set that to push in the first place. That is a big trade. FlyQuest have put so much now, they've wagered a ton on the ability to take this Dragon. And yes, it is going to be Infernal Soul, so if they grab it, it is going to be an absolute win of the trade. But ZOOS now command a 3,000 gold. Their Ornn is going to be in position maybe for Ornn items soon enough to start contesting. If they can pull even one Dragon, I think ZOOS is going to be in a place where their gold advantage and their Ornn upgraded items might be enough to start attacking FlyQuest in that 5-on-5 against the Dragon, the way we saw in the previous games, being able to convert against that, the 5-on-5 team fights. Just got to get there in time.
There's a rough part right there. FlyQuest go for the invade over on blue buff, forcing Griffin to burn the ult to get over the wall while establishing a lot of vision on that blue side. Got 30 seconds before Baron does spawn, but the bigger timer to watch out for is going to be that 3-minute and 30-second point where Dragon Soul does spawn. You have that Infernal Soul that you were talking about, just waiting to be taken by FlyQuest. See what ZOOS can do to respond, because they do have a pretty good team fighting composition. Just having Alarum be able to put out that Call of the Forge God, be able to be disruptive, as well as Tuesday to make sure that no one really gets onto that back line. You'll have to deal with Raheen as well.
Trading again. you see top lane, like, it's Philip. They're just going to give Philip as much gold because he's an insane team fighter. Aatrox is insane inside of team fights. You're trading that for Tuesday gold, which is important as well because he's one of the main carries on this roster, and he's going for what is the Cosmic Drive that should be coming in here any second now. For the likes of the trade push on both sides, but nobody's there to stop the second push is the problem. Tuesday might be able to convert this if Triple doesn't get there fast enough because of how much quicker he was able to actually take that tower and still has the hover from Viego. So if Triple gets too antsy right here and kind of goes forward, maybe uses his ultimate, doesn't look like he's going to fall bait to that, Viego would have been able to cover for that kind of thing.
All outers done, only one inner remains. As Tuesday tries to work on that, but you're going to have Dreams roaming over to respond to the pressure that was being applied by Tuesday. Will chase Tuesday out, but he was able to get what he came for. Got some farm, kept the pressure, kept the minion wave shoved in, forcing FlyQuest to constantly have to respond to this.
Now 2 minutes remain until Dragon is going to be available. Cosmic Drive, Sork Shoes, Luden's completed now for Tuesday. He's on a pretty big power spike with what he's got right here. We need Raheen, I think, to get into a better place with his Bonamune completed, that kind of thing, before he really becomes a threat inside of fights as well. Hopefully able to carve out with that like Serpent's Fang through Johnson a little bit better, given the fact that like that's going to cut through the Immortal Shield, though Shield, and the overhealing from Severin potentially. But I think you're right. You mentioned it a second ago. Alorum's ultimate, Alorum in general, I think is going to be the most important thing. Hitting a solid Ornn ultimate can change the dynamic of what's about to happen in a minute and 40 seconds, where it seems like ZOOS, they really want to just like fight right there. That's going to be the timer. That's where they're going to put their foot in the ground. They're commanding this almost 3,000 gold lead here. They've got Griffin also insanely farmed up. He's on 2 full items, and Trundle is not anywhere near that, but still like 50 CS farm advantage that Griffin's got right now. He is obscenely strong compared to his opposition as well. There are members of the side of ZOOS that are much stronger. The question is, can they convert on it? Can they beat FlyQuest around this 4th dragon and win? Raheen had to flash.
And it's looking less and less likely. I mean, the Chain of Corruptions was just burnt right there. You got a minute before that's able to spawn. You just said it. Raheen flashed. He will not be safe if he does get caught out in the back end of this fight. FlyQuest are setting up for this Drake, and they're setting up beautifully.
They are. It is ZOOS who's now kind of forced their way into the river just to pull back some of the vision that was laid down by FlyQuest, although that Scuttle Crab is going to be an immediate vision that's going to be controlled one way or another. Like, ZOOS clearly want the dragon, right? But they're also set up for a team fight. They kind of want to do both right here. And so they want to force FlyQuest to fight into them when they control the river, which is why they're allowing top lane to get pushed, bottom lanes being the response here, where like Tuesday's going to shove that in, and they should control mid push and bot push, which should give them control of this quadrant that they're standing in right now and give them better access to this dragon. That's what they're going for. FlyQuest might have to sacrifice this dragon, and the exchange would be more gold onto Philip to get him further into this game. I think they're okay with that. They could try a Baron bait. I don't think that's a legitimate threat right this second unless Johnson had better gun setup, but they are actually going to go for it. If there's no vision, if they don't know this is happening, okay, they do. They see Johnson right now.
They do see Johnson, and the response is coming out. ZOOS are making their way over. They do have one over towards Drake right now, so they will make sure that FlyQuest do not secure the Dragon Soul. Tuesday will grab that on his own. So FlyQuest, they try and bluff it. They try and play around the Drake. It's not going to work out. Ultimately, ZOOS will grab the Infernal.
Yeah, that was really interesting because FlyQuest had a number of ways that they could try to push for that, and somehow it was ZOOS that kind of came out with everything. Top Wave could have been shoved in to try to get more tower onto Philip or more gold onto Philip, deny some from Alorum. He was able to catch that for free. They go for a Baron blood bait, which is trying to like pull the side of ZOOS away, but again, as Ornn is around, they can throw enough damage in with just that ultimate alone to kind of change things that the Baron wasn't ever really feasible in the first place, so that's not really a threat. So they get to walk away with Dragon. They caught that top wave, and Alorum was able to snag that. The Baron bait got basically nothing, so FlyQuest basically just gave up everything for the potential of a play that could have come through. I can appreciate at least that they're trying to force moves. They're not going to take the 5-on-5 bait that ZOOS has laid out for them because they're not comfortable with it yet.
Very careful game here. A game of inches being played both ways. I mean, you can see FlyQuest are attempting setups. They're always looking for ways to be able to establish your vision, to get it there, to control that fog of war, and keep ZOOS guessing. But ZOOS respond immediately after. They always head over towards that area where the fog of war is. They clean out that vision, and they deny any windows of opportunity in for FlyQuest. You're seeing it right now as FlyQuest try and play with the fog of war here. They got some advantage to work with over in the bot side, as Tuesday will be able to shuffle to the side, forced to burn his flash to be able to stay alive. Triple will get the play there.
Reinforcements on both sides were potential, and that's why I think Tuesday played that one very, very defensively. There was a possibility of like an E shift into the Rise just to get him away from you, but the flash might have actually been enough to actually stay on top. Now in the top river.
Here we go. The knockup goes through, but Call the Forge God will not land onto Philip. Philip will be able to hop over the wall and get to safety.
And he will. Okay, Philip kind of got caught up by Alarum right there, trying to combo him. He did have to flash, which is difficult, because again, if you're trying to set up fuse and things, that's going to be even harder to hit inside the confines of a team fight here for the likes of FlyQuest. Johnson, popping the moon. I was going to say popping the Moonlight Vigil for nothing, but he nearly kills right there.
Oh, Emperor's Divide comes out. It's not enough, though. The snare too good from Triple. He will find the shutdown onto Tuesday.
This bottom quadrant has been so crazy for both junglers because I've been waiting for Griffin or NXI to convert on something. Right there, Griffin's necessary just because of how much damage got put out with the Moonlight Vigil, but the mid-wave had to be, like, they had to use him for mid-wave. That opens up NXI to walk into bot side, put that Trundle Pillar behind the likes of the Azir, and even better, he was on top of his person. If he presses E, that means he can't escape, so that wasn't able to be used. The ultimate was used, but of course the Everfrost keeps him in place as well, and that gives Triple an additional kill. This side lane is much harder for the Azir than it is for the Rise, especially when a Trundle's about to be able to deny Azir the ability to escape that.
Yeah, he tried his best with the Emperor's Divide. Not gonna pay out at the end. FlyQuest are fighting 26 minutes into this to come back, and not that far off. Only 1K separating these two teams. ZOOS having a tremendous early game. Now FlyQuest, who are starting to find the momentum, they still have that soul point to work with. They've still been able to collect a lot of towers, able to get 3 of them in the grand scheme of things. So a lot of gold going their ways and a lot of scaling to work with.
This is still a massive Ornn. Level 15, gonna start upgrading, just has the Luden's upgrade as well for the side of Tuesday. Everything kind of coming together for ZOOS is like their composition's kind of entering the territory. The question is, like, do they have enough advantage to be able to compete in the 5-on-5? It brings us around, they're looking for something.
There is a knock-up! Dreams won't make it into the realm. More people get knocked right on out of it and sent to the grave. ZOOS able to get the pick as they start surrounding Baron.
Philip immediately on the bottom side turret. He's trying to push this in and put some pressure onto the inhibitor. They're going to double for it. They're not going to contest the Baron buff. They're just going to give it up.
FlyQuest are just going straight for this. They don't care about the Baron buff. They care about the win. They're going straight for the bot lane, looking to take that inhibitor. Baron's getting lower and lower. Johnson's there. NXI's there. Will NXI go over the wall? He'll get forced over the wall and slain. It's going to be Baron going over to ZOOS, but the base has been cracked. FlyQuest trade Baron for a bot lane inhibitor.
This is really intriguing in terms of how this is going to play out from this point on. So normally in a situation like this, like, the inhibitor is going to be invaluable eventually for FlyQuest. The Baron buff is just how can you convert it. With this many outer towers gone, normally I would be adverse to this for ZOOS. I'm like, that's just not worth it. But now they can use the wave push to set up for Dragon 1, and even the residual Baron buff is going to be enough to set up their waves for even like Dragon 2, potentially to make plays or to push Vision in so that that's controlled by them for this. This Baron play is a lot deeper than just, okay, we're going to be able to push and win off this. It should be set up for dragons that you're paying attention to. I was worried that NXI was going to be able to steal this because he got shoved over the pit. Thankfully, he goes down before that was able to be kind of capitalized on. But again, ZOOS played with fire there for a second, but I think they're okay with everything that happened. FlyQuest, they pushed the inhibitor, but this means that, again, Baron buff's going to be able to shove their waves out. They get, second Drake, probably are able to set up much easier for third Drake, and ZOOS continue this reign of terror where they're trying to use this 5v5 composition to dissuade FlyQuest from really contesting against neutral Drake.
But look at what FlyQuest are doing. Right now, focusing on the bot side, they're not going to be fast enough to respond to ZOOS, who are pushing right into the base, who are going to take their inhibitor right on back. FlyQuest are too slow. They're misreading the scenario, and they haven't sent enough back yet. The backs are getting canceled. Alorum is standing there, looking to stop everything that FlyQuest could do, and that's an inhibitor down. ZOOS bring it right back.
I am floored right now. I don't know. I have no conception of what it was that FlyQuest was doing on that top side. Maybe trying to set up a push for Rise or something, trying to cover to make sure that, like, the Ornn was going to get punished and they were able to do more, push things out. Even if all of that happened, even if they lose Alarum and top tower, you're trading for inhibitor. You're 100% taking that all day. And now even worse, like with the Azir Tower, it's gonna be hard to try to deal with the siege that they've got set up right now onto the Siege Tower. You just deliver Baron buff minions as much as they want.
Corruption to knock up onto Philip. Philip looks to turn it around to the World Ender. So much health coming out of Philip. He's able to stay alive, and he will take down Griffin. FlyQuest Academy, they're gonna fight. They're gonna win that team fight, and they're gonna be able to chase out ZOOS from their base.
They finally find a fight where, like, Aloran isn't around to really be this dissuader for themselves, where this massive, like, AoE is going to prevent them. So instead, they just kind of walk forward under the Azir Tower, and there's not enough damage to really, like, kind of work through this front line between Philip and NXI and Kareem's, and the potential is 100% there.
There's a death sentence, but you can see how tanky he is at this stage of the game, Rebel.
Insanely. He's sitting on what looks like 5,000 health right now as 3 completed items. Also, the Anathemas is filthy just because, again, Ornn has so much CC, and also the damage reduction against a single target. I think you honestly throw that on triple more than you throw it on Johnson, because Johnson's going to be focused a bit more for everything else. And you can see with all the armor that he's purchased so far, like, maybe that was going to be the case. But it doesn't really matter who's it on. It's all about, like, the CC advantage as well that comes through. As the game continues to trek forward, as you said, best a game of inches thus far. 2,000 gold advantage for ZOOS isn't crazy, but they've been able to be very crafty about how they've set up their map to take the last 2 dragons. If they can finagle their way into a third here, the game gets really tense for the next 5 minutes.
And just look at the healing that came out of Philip. Philip should have been caught out right here, but of course with World Ender, Gore Drinker, all the works, bam, gets a good chunk of health back.
Impressive. They go for that pick onto Philip, just overstepping their bounds just a little bit. Rhino was already kind of low health from previous, and they just don't have the damage to be able to push that out. The rest of the team was also able to capitalize on the fact that, like, Griffin was a bit too far forward on that one, which was another big proponent of that. So just a little bit of counterplay that comes out from the side of FlyQuest. Now, however, where's their Ornn at? Their Ornn's following up on their tail just a little bit behind, but now with Ornn, if they try the same exact thing, you can throw that Ornn ultimate into this little corridor, and all of a sudden things get a lot rougher for you to try to deal with.
The lovely thing about being able to rotate from lane to lane and having Alorum over in that bottom lane is, you know, there's not much of a distance that you have to cover to get him into the team fight. And on top of that, it's a long range engage that you have with Call of the Forge God. So he will always be within a good distance to be able to back up ZOOS Gaming as a good chunk of damage comes in. Tuesday trying to get over the wall, able to flash it to stay alive. FlyQuest now looking for the engage. Subterfuge not going to be used. Alorum going to back off, and FlyQuest again defend the base.
Now, there's not too much pressure that comes about from, like, the Azir Flash being down because he stands pretty far back and fights. I just want to note the fact that right there, I see what Tuesday was attempting to do. He wanted to E and then Q his soldier over the wall, but because of his proximity to the wall, the soldier went down and he E'd and finished his E before the Q could actually come out, and that's what caused him to have to flash over that wall. It was a very minute thing, but right there, the Q into E should have come out, but he didn't think he had the time for it, so he tried to E into Q just to make sure that he could get out. And that's, I guess, again, if you can't flash to wall, maybe that setup is a little bit harder, but it shouldn't be that punishing. Just wanted to note that little interaction and what happened right there.
We're now 33 minutes into this one. 2K lead for ZOOS. Death sentence over the wall. Alorum does not care about that. He's able to just CC immune it away, but setting up for the Drake because this is going to be a big one right now. We are going to be looking at a team fight quite soon, as FlyQuest would love to get Dragon Soul right now, and ZOOS would definitely love to deny it.
Oh, yes, they would. Bottom lane is pushing because they've got those inhibitor minions that are shoving in constantly. Mid was already pushed, so they aren't going to be able to catch it. This is an immediate dragon. We are on 7 or 6 dragons already. 7th is what we're going to achieve now. The fight afterwards.
Engage onto NXI. Unable to get it onto NXI. Instead, they're going to turn their attention towards Philip and delete him. The rest of FlyQuest are getting mowed through. But look at the damage coming out of Johnson. He's able to get the health bars lower. Triple now trying to get away from Griffin. Griffin will hunt him down. One more auto to finish his job. It's going to be a triple kill. And Griffin wants more. He's going to find more. Tuesday grabs that one with only 1 member remaining. Rebel, I think it's all but a formality right now. ZOOS are looking to close out game 1 against FlyQuest.
ZOOS have been threatening this powerful 5-on-5 team composition for so long. They grab the 3rd Drake, FlyQuest linger just a little bit, and they get caught out. Philip gets caught first, everybody else kind of shuffles in behind, and a massive Ornn ultimate from Aloran is all that is necessary to capitalize on it. ZOOS play patient, they play the long game, they get creative with how they can contest against the Dragons after FlyQuest goes up 3, and they take the first game of the series against the side of FlyQuest.
The amateur darlings, Rebel Fox, the amateur darlings are able to bring it to a top 4 Academy squad. We've watched them in the past struggle against Golden Guardians Academy, an 8th place squad. A lot of people could have just wrote them out right here and right now. No, that was a performance.
Toilet paper cat. That's the team that just beat the 3rd-ranked Academy team in this first game. There's no reason why they have a bunch of respect to their name. They played extremely well. They understand how to play at a very high level because these players have been there. And you can see the level, just like the clear difference in what it is, what it looks like between like an amateur team and what it is that ZOOS is able to bring to the table. This is why this matchup was so fearsome to start with, because FlyQuest is insane, but these players still know how to play. I'm going to say that outright again and again. That ZOOS, they are not to be trifled with. They are a team that is here to be competitive with not just some of the other amateur teams, not just some of the lower end academy. They are here to win everything, and they are capable of doing so. FlyQuest have to come back, kind of reassess themselves, make sure that they are ready for game number 2, because ZOOS are not going to stop the train after a game like that.
Oh, they are definitely not, especially when that train is led by Alorum. Those Call of the Forge got the lead he was able to get over in the top side, and the solo kills against Philip. Philip on the Aatrox, he abused the poor man. He was the focal point of ZOOS in this match that we just had.
Perhaps the one time I've seen Philip really get bullied throughout all of the games that I've seen from the split. I talked praise about Philip and how well he's done, how well he's been able to absorb pressure, and it is Alarim on an Ornn that's able to actually take it to him. The Aatrox pick, again, it used to be like pretty good in that matchup, used to be very volatile. Ornn clearly came ahead of this one with some of the early pressure that they put onto him, and it made it difficult for Philip to really have a big contribution. So game number 2, I'd like to see more comfort for Philip if at all possible, something not too worried about it, because right there the Aatrox looked not particularly enticing, at least not to bring out in game number 2. Hopefully Philip can find something that works for himself so he doesn't get bullied the same way he did in this first game.
So ZOOS looking to start the upset. Let's see if FlyQuest have a response to it. We're going to throw it over a short break. When we return, we'll get back into this matchup between ZOOS Gaming and FlyQuest Academy.